Guys, I'm very depressed, distraught, disorganized in my emotions and my feelings for what the UFC has committed against our community. For what the UFC, the crimes that the higher-ups in this organization have decided to inflict upon us. You can see Chris Barnett, it is true, has been removed from the UFC roster. Beast Boy himself is gone. Chris Corn Syrup Barnett will no longer be fighting in the UFC. The news, while tragic, is unfortunately true. And I don't know how to cope with this information. I hate the UFC, what they are doing to the heavyweight division. They didn't need to do this. The heavyweight division is the smallest division in terms of the number of fighters in the roster. They could keep these guys. Nobody would complain if Chris Barnett fought in Apex cards from here on out. Nobody would complain at all. And they've been removing guys. They've been removing heavyweights more than other divisions. They removed Martin Buday after he beat Marcus Buchecha. You remember that? Martin Buday was like 6-1 or 7-1 in the UFC, only losing to Shamil Gaziev, the blob himself, the Dagestani diabetic. He loses to Shamil, but everybody else that he faces up against, he beats. And they still removed him. They removed Biggie Boy Rosenstrike. And Biggie Boy was like a top 10 ranked fighter on many main events. He was a heavyweight gatekeeper. Not the best, but not the worst. Biggie Boy was decent. I liked watching his fights. He did have a stinker with Pavlovich, but that was a shy Pavlovich that didn't like to be aggressive. He loses that fight, and what does the UFC do? They betray him. They get rid of him. And now we don't have another mainstay in the heavyweight division. Who are the heavyweight contenders now that we have to look forward to? Walter Walker and Mario Pinto. That's really it. Those are like the new heavyweights that are coming up. Brando Pericic is another name, but we don't really know how good he is. He's only had one fight in the UFC, beating Elisha Ellison by brutal knockout. Don't get me wrong, he's exciting, but we just don't know how good he is. And we got Josh Hokett, newcomer, but we don't know how good Josh Hokett is in the long run either. But man, Chris Barnett, I will never forgive the UFC for what they have done to Chris Barnett. Why did they book him against Hamdi Abdelwahab? And that's another guy that they removed. Yeah, Hamdi, who just beat Chris, bye-bye. We don't want you anymore. You only have one loss. You beat Jamal Pogues. You beat Dante O'Mays. Not good enough. I thought he did win the Muhammad Usman fight, by the way. Not good enough, according to the UFC. Goodbye, Hamdi. You can put these fights on the Apex. Nobody cares. You can put them in the prelims on the Apex. Nobody's going to complain. I certainly am not. So, the matchmakers, they put Chris up against Hamdi, who they know Hamdi has a background in wrestling. What do they expect a Taekwondo guy to do? There's many other strikers that they could have put up for Chris. They could have done Chris versus Muhammad Usman. Nope. They don't want to do that fight. They could have done Chris versus some of these other heavyweights that have lost recently. Chris versus Louis Sutherland. Chris versus Max Jimenez. Chris versus Elisha Ellison. Nope. Not good enough. Also, what happened to Marcus Rogerio Pizarro de Lima? Did he ever get removed from the UFC? I can't remember. I guess he did. And he lost to Derek Lewis, but I can't remember if he had a fight after the Derek Lewis loss. The UFC is a disgrace. I don't even want to wear this fucking beanie anymore. I was one of Chris's biggest fans. The spinning wheel kick against John Vellante will always be It'll always be a part of me. I will never forget that knockout, one of the best knockouts in the history of the sport. They didn't deserve you, Chris. They didn't deserve you, man. You deserved better. I'm really just fucking depressed, man. I don't know what else to say. I just thought I'd make this quick update video. Why they gotta do my boy Chris like that? You know, I'm always a big fan of the heavyweights. I like heavyweight boxing because, we want to see who the best fighters are. A heavyweight is the most dangerous fighter in existence. I like heavyweight boxing. I like heavyweight MMA. And we lost a good one today. So this video goes out to you, Chris. If you're watching this video, I'm your biggest fan. One of your biggest fans, probably. Not physically big. I'm only 160 pounds. So not big in that way, unlike yourself. But I always loved your spinning wheel kicks, your scissor sweeps, your Imanari rolls. I always fantasized about being in your shoes, knocking out all of these guys like Jake Collier, John Vellante. I wish you were younger so that I could see more of you. But it's over. That's all I've got. See you next time. Peace out. Don't subscribe. I always like to say at the end of my videos to subscribe to my channel. Don't subscribe to my channel. This video is not a happy one. But that's all I've got. Peace out.